Hello, welcome to the first video of my series focusing on photoperiod plants. In this episode, I'll show you how I grow mother plants and maintain them to be very small for many years using bonsai methods. With these mother plants, I'll be taking clones to show you how I train them into plants of all different shapes and sizes, indoor and outdoors. A big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring and making these videos possible. Use code BASEMENT for an 8% discount from their official websites. Links are in the description. Just like my autoflowers, we're going to be starting by germinating our seeds on water for around 3 days. After 3 days, the seeds should be germinated and have a small taproot growing out of them. I'll be growing these plants in 2.5 gallon or 10 liter pots. The smaller the better for mother plants. These plants will be grown in the cheap Walmart soil, Schultz Premium Potting Mix. This stuff has time-release nutrients in it, which makes it much easier to deal with the plants, since you only need to add water. One of my bags of soil is a lot more dry than the others, so I'll be pre-moistening it with about 1 liter of dechlorinated tap water. I like to let my seeds sit on water until they have a taproot of about 1 to 2 centimeters. This makes it very easy to plant the seed and have more control over its orientation. I chose not to start with solo cups, which are 510 milliliters, because I want to be able to take a few extra clones from them off the start. Smaller pots can help the plant grow with a tighter internodal distance, which is great for forming a mother plant with a dense structure of branches to be maintained from. Unlike my autoflowers, I'm going to grow these mother plants under an 18:6 light schedule. Keep in mind that for the time lapse, I've removed all of the pictures for the night period, since they're just darkness. 3 days after being planted, the seeds have risen up. The plant on the left, which is an animal cookie strain, has already shed her seed. The one on the right, which is a Tangerine Truffle Breath, has her starter leaves poking out from the sides of the shell, so she's ready to have a helping hand with removing her helmet. Even though there's no rush with photoperiods, like there is with autoflowers, I still like to assist with the shell removal, even if it isn't required. I like to know that the plant isn't being hindered on their first day, and it would be nice for both of these plants to be around the same size on day 15. Around halfway through their first day, I noticed that their soil has dried up from their initial pre-moistening. I watered both of them with around 125 mils of dechlorinated tap water. The next day they were dry again, so I watered each of them with about 250 milliliters of water. Don't worry if your seedlings are a little bit floppy. They'll figure it out in a few days, once they've bulked up just a little bit more. The watering schedule for each of these plants is starting to get out of sync, so I watered the one on the right with just a little bit of water. That way it might have a chance to dry out at a similar timing to the other plant. The Tangerine Truffle Breath is still a little bit floppy, so I gave her some support. For this size of plant, I'm still watering around 150 to 250 mils. On day 8, I gave each of them about 250 mils of water. And another 250 mils of water. As I water my plants, I'm not being so precise with the measurements. I'm just trying to water just enough to cover the surface underneath the plant. A day later, on day 12, the plant is starting to develop a thicker trunk. I'm now going to be watering each plant with around 500 mils of water to more evenly cover the entire surface of the soil. The soil in the animal cookies got a little bit too dry, so a lot of the water just ran straight out the bottom. I made sure to clean that up so I didn't ruin my floor. Once your plants are around this size, it's probably a good idea to have a drain tray underneath each of the pots. Now these plants are both indica dominant, but the Tangerine Truffle Breath is the clear winner in my eyes. The animal cookies is visibly annoyed about some sort of pH or nutrient problem in the Walmart soil. The leaves have slight signs of deficiencies around the edges, plus she's not growing nearly as vigorously. Today, I watered both plants with about 1 liter of dechlorinated tap water. These plants are more than large enough to take their main branch as a clone, but I need a couple more days just to get things in order. Today we have one plant looking up and one plant looking down. On the left we can see the animal cookie soil is still moist, so she's good today, but the Tangerine Truffle Breath is really dry. Today I'll be watering her with 2 liters of dechlorinated tap water. Two days later, and it's time to do the thing. When I take clones, I like to use an aeroponics clone box. You can plant clones directly in the soil and cover with a humidity dome, but I find that this method has a much better, faster, and more consistent result. I've never lost a single clone that I've put into this box. I'll be rooting my clones under 24-hour light, but I'm sure that 18.6 would probably be fine too. In the 6 liters of water, I'm mixing in 30 mils of Clonex seedling and clone nutrient. Then, I'm adjusting the pH down to be around 5.5 to 5.8. If you're not using a quality pH pen, instead of getting a cheap one, get a cheap liquid drop test kit. It will be 100% consistent, and it'll help you avoid a ton of headaches, unless you're colorblind. Here we can see the before and after. 6.8 and 5.8 are both slightly yellow, except 6.8 is more green, while 5.8 is more orange. Now that the reservoir is all set up, I plug in the air pump and the water pump so that the water is getting aerated and the water pump is spraying out of the manifold. Today, the animal cookies soil was dry, so I watered her with about 1.5 liters of dechlorinated tap water. I start today's cloning by removing a few leaves. I'm going to take the main branch as a clone. Clones just need to be long enough so that they can stick out of the bottom of a neoprene insert to get water from the spray nozzles in the aeroponics cloner. The instant that I cut a clone, I always dip it immediately into water. I then removed the lower nodes and scraped the bottom of the stem. I don't think this next step is required, but sometimes I like to cut the bottom on an angle to increase the surface area for roots to grow from the bottom of the cutting. When building a bonsai mother plant, the rules are reversed. You don't want to keep your top nodes, and you want to build your structure from the lowest nodes. For the Tangerine Truffle Breath, I start by removing this one leaf so that I can see what I'm doing. Similar to the other plant, I'm going to top this one and use that cutting as a clone. Always make sure to dip your cuttings directly into water to avoid air from getting inside. Before I continue taking clones, I need to do a quick defoliation to clean things up. All of these branches are more than large enough to be awesome clones. I'm going to let these other branches grow up just a little bit more before I take them off as clones as well. I tried to fit plastic bags over the clones, but they're just too small for that. I've never used humidity domes with this type of clone box, but I've never had a plant fail. After my thistle's low stress training, she started getting too tall again, so I topped each of her branches. If you're still here and enjoying this episode, it's time to give a big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video. Without Spiderfarmer, these videos would not be possible. Today, I'll be setting up a new 2x4 or 60 by 120 centimeter grow space. If you're looking to set up or upgrade a new grow space, consider picking up a complete kit from the Spiderfarmer official websites, which you can find a link to in the description. You can use code BASEMENT for an 8% discount off all products from their official websites, or you can use code BASEMENT3 for a 3% discount from their products on Amazon. Now that the tent is up, it's time to add the carbon filter and inline fan, which is used to blow out the hot air from the top of the tent, which forces fresh air to be sucked in through an open vent at the bottom of the tent. I was surprised to see that the carbon filter comes with a bunch of spare carbon, while the filter, it comes pre-filled already. I'm usually a bit of a savage, and I'll just lay the carbon filter and inline fan on top of the tent, but in this case, there's no room up there, so I just hang it inside the tent, like a normal person. For lighting, we've got the SF2000 Evo. This is a fantastic fit for this size of tent. Since I'm not completely filling out the canopy, I'll be using it at about 50% power for now, and hung to give the plants about 600 ppfd of light intensity. And don't forget the bottom tray for your tent. The inline fan carbon filter combo is looking pretty sleek up here, I like it. Here's the side vent that I opened to let fresh air in. We've now got airflow and lighting covered, but don't forget about air circulation. There's so much more room for the mother plants and their clones, now that they aren't fighting for space against my tomatoes and sunflowers. Lastly, it's always safer to mount your electronics up high so that they can avoid the water that's down below. It's day 24 for our mother plants, and the soil is still moist. Today, I'll be starting up a new mother plant. It's a cookie crumble from Rocket Seeds by Crop King. The Tangerine Truffle Breath is dry again, so I watered her with about 2 liters of dechlorinated tap water. Two days later, and those upper branches are looking really healthy and ready to be cloned. I'm going to leave this last branch to form the structure that this plant will be growing from. I thought it would be fun to have it bending over the stump. I then taped up the stump because there was a lot of surface area open to the air, and the trunk was hollow in the center. This should help the plant to heal and to cap up the top. I find this branch to be very interesting because it has naturally topped itself. It perfectly splits into 2 branches and has about 8 nodes growing up it, which is the amount of nodes that I aim for to form the structure of a dense canopy. I then added those clones into the aeroponics cloner. Next, I need to top the animal cookies down to the bottom node. I'll be topping it twice to produce 2 topped clones. I've never done this, so we'll see how they do. The soil still has a little bit of moisture, but I think it's fine to water. To finish off her training for today, I topped each of the side branches on her lowest node. This leaves her with 2 branches, each having 4 growth points on them. The goal isn't to have her growing vigorously, since I don't plan to take any more clones for a while. I just need to keep her alive. 3 days later, and the Tangerine Truffle Breath is doing really well. I'm just taking account of all the nodes growing up the branches and deciding where I want to top her. I want there to be around 8 branches remaining. It's time to top up the water inside of the clone box. You want to make sure you unplug it first so it doesn't spray everywhere. I didn't check the pH or make any adjustments, I just threw some extra water in there so that she didn't run dry. The cookie crumble is now ready to be planted inside of a pot. I think this pot size is somewhere between 6 and 8 liters, or about 1.5 to 2 gallons. With the mother plants now established, my future photoperiod videos will have less focus on them, although I will show you all of the training that I do to them to keep them as small as possible and to keep them healthy for many years. They are going to be enduring a lot of heavy training of the canopy and the root system. I've seen videos of people using this type of clone box and having fully rooted clones in just 3 days, but this is when their humidity levels are very high. I'm not in any rush, and I don't mind that they start looking a little bit angry. They always pull through. Ooh, look at that pond scum. There's a lot of roots. Maybe even too many roots. That's not a problem though. This just means I probably could have planted them about 5 days ago. I'm a bit busy tonight, so this is a tomorrow problem. The largest Tangerine Truffle Breath clone will be going into a mixture of ProMix HP that has been amended with Gaia Green Organics in a 27 liter pot. In 27 liters of ProMix HP, I'll mix in 3 liters of worm castings, a little over 250 mils of all-purpose 444, just a dash of Dynamyco mycorrhizal, and a good handful of dolomitic lime to try to keep the pH above 6. Maybe a little more dolomitic lime. Why not? Oh, she's got quite the roots on her. Probably don't need to root prune her, I could just stuff those roots in the pot, but why not? Many people ask if poking stakes in my soil damages the roots. This is one of the reasons why root damage really doesn't bother me. I then tried to untangle the roots a little bit so I could spread them out in the pot a little bit more evenly. I felt like the roots were out of water for a little while now, so I dipped her into some water to keep the roots moist. I then watered in the plant with about 2 liters of dechlorinated tap water. She might look a little bit angry now, but that's just because of my barbaric cloning practices. She'll be fine. This plant already has 8 or so nodes growing up, so I figured I'd top her. I couldn't find my scissors. Next up, I'll be planting the largest Animal Cookies clone into a DWC hydroponics bucket. Please ignore the dirty net pot here, I cleaned it in a minute. There's roughly about 4 gallons or 16 liters of water in this bucket, and you want it to be just grazing the bottom of the net pot. Once the net pot's rooted, you want about a 1 centimeter gap between it and the water. Into the reservoir, I'm adding 4 ml per 4 liter of Florinova Grow. I'll then pH down to around 5.8. Oh, and don't forget the air stone. I got this really big air stone, but I don't think it's any better than 1/2 its size. This one might be faulty since air is only coming out close to where the air line attaches to it. I then top watered the roots with some water from the reservoir below. You're probably wondering what I'm going to be doing with all those extra clones. They're going to be going outside at my buddy's medical garden. I'm going to be planting them directly into the ground. I'll be digging and filling the holes with a mixture of Gaia Green living soil and amendments, plus some Promix HP, and then blending that with some of the dirt that's been dug from the holes. Welcome to the trenches. This garden should be getting a good amount of light and airflow, although for part of the day, some of the trees will be blocking a bit of the light. I'm really happy about the elevation of the soil around the plants. Water will pool around the plants rather than run away, making it a lot easier to water all of the plants at once. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to stay tuned for my future episodes. Another big thank you to Spiderfarmer for sponsoring this video. Make sure to use code BASEMENT for a discount.